Welcome back to Operation Freedom, folks. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from our ancillary bunker linked to our main Freedom Bunker in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. We're here for you every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern, live, also available 24/7 at davejanda.com. Stop on by. You will not be, you won't be disappointed, but you will be educated and empowered. Exactly what the syndicate does not want. Because if you're educated and empowered, then you will have figured out the con that they're running and will have also figured out how to be less of a target for them and their freedom stripping, life stripping, financial stripping agenda. My next guest is someone who has been on the tip of the spear as it relates to empowering you on your financial and economic freedom. Bill Holter. For those of you not familiar with Bill, Bill's former partner, who has since passed, Jim Sinclair. Jim was known for decades as Mr. Gold. Well, with Jim's passing recently, the torch has been passed to Bill Holter as the 2023, 2024, and beyond Mr. Gold. Why is Bill known that way? And known of that way, because of his unending support for hard assets, for entities that you can hold and own with no third party counterparty risk to them, which in other words, assets that are not backed or linked to debt, DEBT. That's what Jim was known for. That's what Bill is known for. For those of you not familiar with Bill's history, he had a lengthy career in financial services, and he retired in 2006 and actually moved his family out of the United States at that point because he saw something coming down the road that was not too good. And he was right. Think of 2007, 2008, and 2009. But then Bill returned to the United States in 2011 and currently makes his home in the great state of Texas. He joined Miles Franklin, milesfranklin.com, as an associate writer in 2012, and he is a precious metals broker through Miles Franklin at this point. It is my honor to welcome back Mr. Gold himself, Bill Holter. Bill, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
So, Bill, if you could help us understand what has happened over the last couple weeks in the precious metals market. So 2 weeks ago tonight, gold and silver were screaming higher. Gold was over 2150 or $60 an ounce, and silver was screaming over $26. And next thing you know, come Monday morning, so all-time high, historical all-time high for gold. And then all of a sudden on Monday and Tuesday, kaboom, they get hit. And then this past week, Jerome Powell comes out from the Fed, even though days before he had spoken about, oh yeah, we're not going to be cutting interest rates, and oh, I see more interest rate hikes coming, and and he completely flipped and changed his tune and was talking about, well, we're going to have 3 cuts in 24 and 3, 4, maybe 5 down the line after that. And gold and silver again took off. So, Bill, could you help us and explain to us this schizophrenic action in financial markets and in particular the precious metals market over the past couple weeks?
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. One theory, and I'm not really a fan of this one, is that the action 2 weeks ago on Sunday night was a warning shot, if you will. Understand that the BRICS in 2024 is going to be led by Putin, and we know that they are talking about a gold-backed currency. So there's a thought process that goes, that was a warning shot. I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because if you look at gold in China for the last month, 2 months, there's been a premium over COMEX and over LBMA of anywhere from 30 to as much as $60 per ounce. I don't think they would try to, if you want to call it, provoke the West. They're going to let the West fall on its own. They understand that they don't need to push. They don't need to push us over. We're going to fall on our own. What I think happened was, if you look at what happened the Friday prior to Sunday, gold closed at an all-time monthly, weekly, and daily close. So on any chart that you could look at, it was breaking out. And you had trend followers jump in, ran the price higher, and what happened after that is what we've seen hundreds of times over the last 20 or 30 years, is that paper contracts on COMEX, paper contracts on LBMA were dumped en masse. But understand, they're paper contracts. There's no gold behind them. Mm-hmm. So it's really like the tail wagging the dog itself. I think we're very close to that actually breaking, but I think that's what happened is pretty much the modus operandi of the financial powers that be. They have to keep gold and they have to keep silver in check, because gold is the direct competitor to all the Western fiat currencies. In other words, they've got to show or prove gold is bad, dollars, yen, euros, etc. are good. And obviously, gold's cousin, silver, or little brother, whatever you want to call it, that is such a small market that it's easily controlled. But if they ever let it get out of control, that'll light a fire under gold. So, I mean, it just goes back to the U.S. cannot survive without being able to borrow money, without being able to borrow capital. Mm-hmm. And the way to borrow capital is to continually try to show, prove, whatever, dollar good, gold bad.
And Bill, in the past, over a number of decades' time, whenever the banksters used their paper, as you mentioned, this is not physical gold, physical silver hitting the market. This is all paper shenanigans, criminally based. But correct. Whenever they instituted their paper takedowns of the price of gold, price of silver, they would take it down and it'd go down for weeks, right? Weeks. Well, when they tried to take this down, as I said, it didn't last very long, because kaboom, this week, up it goes again. You know, we closed on Friday over $2,000 an ounce for gold again.
Right. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. At first you can do it easily, but as you tire, it's harder and harder to hold the beach ball underwater. I mean, you can go back, Dave, 20, 25 years, and you're saying weeks. It used to be a month, 2 months, 3 months, that once there was some froth in gold and they broke the chart, they'd be able to keep gold down for 2 or 3 months at a time. Then it turned into weeks, and over time that span has gotten shorter and shorter. And now, like you said, it's days, if not hours.
So, Bill, we now see Putin having meetings with your United Arab Emirates, with Saudi Arabia, then Iran flying to Moscow after he gets back and having meetings there. You have Saudi Arabia having these negotiations and meetings with China about having their oil paid for not in dollars but in renminbi or yuan, Chinese yuan. What's propped the dollar up since the early 70s has been the creation of this petrodollar. It appears this petrodollar is coming to an end. As you mentioned, the BRICS countries are talking about backing their currency with hard assets, such as with gold or silver or oil or natural gas. Bill, tell me if I'm off, but if I look down the road here, not very far, just beginning of 2024, I'm seeing the end of the road of the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world, and I'm seeing significant financial upheaval. And when that's the case, the only entities that have excelled in that type of environment in the past thousands of years have been gold and silver. Is my assessment off?
No, you're absolutely right. And you mentioned Saudi Arabia and you mentioned the UAE. First, with Saudi Arabia, if you go back, I think it's 12 to 15 months ago, they publicly said that they would accept other currencies than dollars. And ever since 1973, when Kissinger started the petrodollar, Saudi Arabia was adamant, as were all the Arab nations, that they would only take dollars for oil. And they took those dollars and reinvested back into U.S. treasuries. They basically funded the deficits. The second one that you mentioned, the UAE, a little over 2 weeks ago, and just before that blow-off spike, the UAE came out and they said, we will accept any currency for oil except dollars. So they threw the gauntlet down, and they basically said, we will not accept dollars. And then, as I mentioned just a little bit earlier, Putin will be the head of the BRICS starting 2024. So is it a coincidence that Putin met with Saudis, met with the UAE, met with the Iranians, and the UAE comes out and says, we will not accept dollars? I think it's no coincidence at all.
And you know, it's interesting, Bill, when gold and silver started, they were way up, right? And you heard about none of this in the bought off lamestream fake media, right? You heard, you know, Bitcoin is 30 to 50% off its highs, and they're talking about, well, Bitcoin's been going up. They don't even mention gold and silver, and gold is hitting its historical, over thousands of years, high, right? They're not talking about any of that. And I'm watching CNBS and switching to Fox Business News, and they're saying, yeah, well, you know, nobody's direct quote, nobody's buying gold and silver. No, nobody's. Wait, what? Because when I hear that nobody's buying gold and silver, Costco came out this week on Friday actually and said the following. Their chief financial officer was being interviewed, okay, because they had an earnings call. And here's what he said, quote, when asked what consumer trends Costco was seeing this holiday season, Chief Financial Officer Richard Galante said, quote, they're buying gold, end quote. In fact, Costco sold more than $100 million in gold bars just the last quarter. And the CFO stated the 1 ounce bars that they sell, after they list them on their website, they sell out within a few hours. And this is with customers only allowed to buy a maximum of 2 1 ounce bars. So somebody's right and somebody's wrong here, right? I think we know who's right. We got the Costco CFO saying, what's the big item they're all buying? Everybody's buying gold. Okay. And you got, you know, the Stuart Varneys of the world on Fox Business News and the Jim Cramers on CNBS saying, the public's not buying hard assets. They're not buying gold and silver. They're not. So, Bill, what is it?
Well, Dave, they are the mouthpiece. And the mouthpiece, obviously, is part of whatever you want to call it, the powers that be, the controllers, the cabal, whatever you want to call it. They are the mouthpiece, and they want to make sure that there is no excitement. And they don't want excitement, and you will see this. There is no bull market like a bull market in gold. What's happening at Costco, and again, what you said is important. People can only buy 2 ounces of gold at a time. That's a lot of purchases to come up to $100 million.
Right.
The $100 million on its own is not it's not a huge number because you're talking total annual production is like $100 billion. But what it illustrates is the average guy in the street knows something is wrong, and they're putting money into gold because innately humans understand gold. Gold can't bankrupt. If you have it in your hand, you can't lose it unless somebody sticks a gun in your face and takes it from you. People understand there's something wrong. The majority don't know exactly what it is, but this is a move to safety. And particularly in silver, silver is running a huge supply-demand deficit. I mean, you're talking, 250, 300 million ounces per year. And that supply and demand is going to be reflected in price, especially as solar. They're talking about needing an extra 400 million ounces of silver for these solar plants. Where's it going to come from? It doesn't exist. At these prices, it does not exist.
Imagine if Costco started selling silver.
Yeah, you'd need dollies. Because with the ratio at 85 to 1, 85 ounces of silver purchases 1 ounce of gold, but it comes out of the ground at 10 to 1. So God's ratio is 10 to 1. Man's ratio is 85 to 1. In order for somebody to buy the equivalent of those 2 gold ounces, they'd have to purchase 170 silver ounces. Now you're talking, what's that? 12, 15 pounds, something like that.
Bill, is it an overstatement to say that if Costco put out a press announcement on Monday saying that they were going to be selling silver bullion, that the COMEX market, the criminal banking syndicate manipulated market, would, if Costco came out with that press release, it would absolutely end the LBMA in London and the COMEX. The whole manipulation game would go toes up within an hour. Is that an overstatement?
Actually, yeah, I think that is an overstatement. I don't think that you'd see a default or a fail to deliver that quickly. What I do think is much more likely is that there would be federal investigations of everything of Costco's operations until they ceased and desist.
Well, you know what? That's a good point, right? So if they did that, that's a good point.
Go back to Warren Buffett in 2003. He bought 300 million ounces of gold. Of silver. And then a year and a half later, he sold it after saying, he was in it for the long term. And when he sold it, he badmouthed silver because I'm sure, the federal level was telling him, you either sell the silver or, your empire's done. Look what they're doing to Elon Musk now.
Right. Same thing. It's the Musk treatment. It would be the Musk treatment. Yeah. And Bill, it's not just the little guys buying gold and silver, right? If we look at central banks, right, their purchases this year, just the first 9 months, central banks purchased over 800 tons, correct?
Right, and that's the real tell because now you're talking tonnage as opposed to ounces, and you've got central banks doing that because they know. Mm-hmm. And when I say they know, they understand that the fiat system is collapsing. The logical question is, well, why bother with the logistics of buying gold if the dollar was as good as gold? Why not just press a button and poof, you got all these dollars on your balance sheet? Well, the reason being because the dollar can and looks like it will default, and gold and silver can never default. And that's the reason, that's the main reason that you own gold or own silver, is because you have an asset where the entire system can default, but your asset did not, or your money did not default.
Folks, we're speaking with Bill Holter from BillHolter.com. Bill, take us where you think this is going for the next several months. Your insight has always been right on target. tell us, because there are a lot of people saying, oh, they're just going to manipulate it down again. See, I believe, Bill, and I could be off, you're the expert. I mean, they're running out of firepower. The syndicate's running out of firepower keeping that beach ball underwater. Where do you think this is going over the next several months?
Well, they're running out of firepower because the math is now too obvious to ignore. I mean, you basically have a Federal Reserve that's insolvent. And we're getting to the point where you've even got central banks that are running into gold. I think in the next few months, we are going to see a failure to deliver by both COMEX and LBMA. And what that basically means is people are going to say, hey, I want my gold, I want my silver, but they're not going to be able to be delivered to because it does not exist. They sell contracts with nothing behind them. Once that happens, then you have confidence completely break because those contracts will have been broken. And the entire system is a confidence game. It's a con game. It runs on confidence alone. So if you break confidence, you break all markets, including obviously derivatives, which we've not talked about, but that's the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's over $2 quadrillion.
So, Bill, there are many people who say, "Oh, yeah, it's okay." So it breaks. So silver goes up to $35 an ounce, and gold goes up to $2,100 an ounce. Come on, no, Bill, we're not talking. We're talking orders of magnitude.
Zeros.
What?
You're going to add zeros to these prices.
Yeah,
and that's just a function of when a currency or anything goes to zero, the opposite of zero is infinity.
Yep.
I mean, just look at Germany in the 1920s. Mm-hmm. Gold went from 170 Reichmarks to, what was it, 3.7 trillion Reichmarks within 4 years.
Yeah.
It went from zero to infinity.
Mm-hmm. So, Bill, in our last several minutes together, educate our listeners in how they can follow you on a daily basis, how they can get in touch with you, because it's absolutely mandatory that what's coming down the road, as you've outlined over the past 20-some minutes, it's important people stay in touch with you and what you're seeing, because you're very upfront about that.
Sure. You can go to my website. It's www.billholter.com. There is a contact icon there, or if you want to contact me directly, I do have a new business email. It's bholter@proton.me, M-E.
Bill Holter at proton.me, M-E.
Yeah, just me. I wanted to spell out the me. Bill Holter, bholter@proton.me.
And Bill, in our last minute, many people say, well, what about Bitcoin? Well, Bill, Jamie Dimon, criminal banker as he is, came out and said, I think that should be essentially snuffed out. You have Elizabeth Warren saying, these cryptos are all used for nefarious purposes. Problem. Bill, it looks like they've decided they're going to target the cryptos.